My name is Ryan Harp, and this is FTH 223, the Hammerfire Pistol Course, assignment number 5. Today's date is September 14th of 2025. For today's assignment, this will be our 5th and final assignment. We're going to work on polishing some of the other components. Last week, we did a trigger group polish. I did a significant amount more than just the fire control group, so we're not going to have as many areas to polish, but we are going to address some areas such as the rails, maybe the face of the hammer, as well as the firing pin block. So we'll work on that. But first things first, anytime we're working in the shop and we've got a firearm, we want to inspect the area, make sure there is no live ammunition. Next, we want to ensure that our pistol is clear. First thing is we'd remove any feed source, which we've already done. So we've got a clear magazine well. Then we're going to visually and physically inspect the chamber, look away, and visually and physically inspect the chamber again. So the first thing that we have to do is assess the feel of the firearm. So as I said in the previous week's assignment, I went a little bit above and beyond. So I've smoothed out the feel of this firearm a significant amount, but we're going to hit some areas on the slide rails, the hammer, and the firing pin block just to smooth it out even more. And what we're going to be looking for is any raised areas or machine marks, tooling marks, anywhere that isn't conducive to just smooth movement. Again, there's only so much that can be done with certain firearms, so we're going to do everything we can and get this disassembled and taken care of. Place some layout dye on the slides, the trigger bar, the slide rails, the hammer itself. I know it's very hard to see there. You can kind of see it in that light. So we placed some on the slide stop, as well as the slide rails for the front. We've already polished several areas on this hammer surface, and then we already polished these upper teeth up here on the trigger bar. So we're going to go ahead and get it disassembled, run it through a couple cycles of operation just to get some wear marks down. We're going to look at those marks and we're going to see where we can adjust.
We've applied some dye chem to some areas to check for wear. We still have a little bit of wear over here from where we polished last week, so we'll probably hit that again on the trigger bar. Up here, not really seeing much wear at all. So on these rails and on the hammer, we got a little bit of uneven mark on the hammer, so we're going to pull that apart, polish that. The rails are actually looking pretty good on here. I'm not seeing any wear marks on the rear rails. So on the front slide rails, it's same story, not seeing any wear marks, but we are seeing contact marks on top of this component. And if I could just envision this, I'm assuming that this contact that's coming in is going to come in just from this underside component, and we're not seeing any consistent wear marks anywhere on the rail to the slide, so we're probably going to leave that alone, and we'll just stone up here and get that very smooth. Probably going to try and polish this like I did with the side of the actual trigger, just to a near mirror finish, just to remove any of that grit that's happening there. On the barrel itself, we checked that locking surface, and I'm not sure how much you could see. There is some wear right here, but it's pretty consistent all the way around, so I don't want to mess with that. And likewise, inside the slide, I don't want to do too much to mess with that. Now, looking at the slide, an area we're going to stone and just get to this polished finish is going to be right along here, as well as the firing pin stop right there. So we're going to continue to disassemble this. We'll polish these areas and we'll show you the final results. We're back. We've polished some of these areas, and you can see here where we've taken it to a much higher shine than it was previously. After closer inspection, I also did find some spots on the rail where the die chem was missing. So we went ahead and we addressed those with some stoning, just to get rid of those rough edges, just to allow for smoother flow of the slide. Here on the front rails from inside the frame slide rails, you can see we've really polished this area where we were getting a lot of contact with the slide. So we've got that to a nice mirrored finish. Also on this trigger bar, it was very hard to see our contact points. So we went ahead and we took this with some stoning as well as some polishing with the rotary tool to bring it to this nice glossy mirrored finish. So the next step for everything is going to be a trip through the ultrasonic cleaner. And after everything is clean and we get all of the components back together, oh, I can't forget the hammer. So also got a nice stoning on the hammer to get that nice and smooth, and then finished it with just a little bit of flitz and the polishing wheel just to get it nice and smooth. So after we get everything through the ultrasonic cleaner, get all the die chem off, ensure that we don't have any more metal polish on it, our next step is going to be to seal the areas. We're going to use some oxo glue for that, and then reassembly and a functions check.
So all the parts have been ran through the ultrasonic cleaner. We've applied some phospho blue to provide a protective coating over these metal components. Some of them accepted it better than others. A later option that we may go with is Cerakoting this entire firearm to include all these internal components as well. So now that we've got it all cleaned, polished, we're gonna start with reassembly. So we're back with the firearm. It's reassembled. We went ahead and did a functions and drop safety test on it just to verify that we didn't take anything out of spec. Now that we've got a firearm reassembled in the workspace, going to visually and physically inspect the chamber, magazine well, ensure that there's no live ammunition in the workspace to just ensure we have a safe firearm. So we went ahead and did all that stoning and polishing work in an attempt to smooth out the cycling action of this firearm. We definitely made some leeway here. Areas that we're still feeling a little bit of grit is on that forward. When it's running forward, I can just feel it in my dominant hand throughout the slide. I think that comes back to not necessarily issues that I'm feeling, just how thin this polymer is. I think it just translates all the vibrations just a little bit more in depth. So it is coming back a lot smoother after polishing the firing pin stop and the hammer. I think that was the big area that was causing friction. So there is some improvement there. The way we did this without altering the geometry is we just used a little bit of Flitz metal polish compound, and we used stones. We avoided any sandpaper or anything like that, which does affect the finish overall because it is so smooth and so fine with that finish of the metal polish as well as the stoning. Getting the Oxfa blue to actually take on the metal takes more work, more repetitions, and it doesn't penetrate as deep, I guess you could say. So there are some finish areas that are affected by how smooth that polish is. I'm not gonna lie, I did have a thought of hitting it with some 220, just a real quick brush against, in order to get that Oxfa blue to take a little better, but just stuck with the polish that it's at. Part 2 of this assignment is to assess my skills at performing tasks like this for a customer. The big question is, do I feel confident in performing this work if tasked to do so at the moment, or do I need more time and practice? Number one, I've gotten several iterations just here at SDI, but then also working on customers' firearms. to learn the art of metal polishing. While I'm by no means a master, I've definitely come a long way. As a reminder, I keep in my toolbox the first sear for a 1911 that I worked on, and I actually stoned and polished this too much, even using the jig, and then now I've taken it out of specs and it makes an unsafe firearm. So we keep that around just as a reminder, and I have it marked so I never accidentally put it in somebody's firearm. But to keep those reminders around to let me know, like, hey, go slow. It's a race. It is not a sprint. And then the second part is, would I shy away from performing this work in the future, and if so, why? So when it comes to trigger jobs, I'm absolutely shying away from those. I'm worried about the liability, but when it comes to fit and finish of the slide and the action, I have a lot more confidence in that. I'm just making it smooth using some die chem and then assessing a little bit at the time, die chem again, assessing again. I've done it with several of my own pistols and rifles, just to make it just a much more smooth cycle of operations. So I wouldn't shy away from this work, but if it was a trigger job, absolutely, I'm walking the other way. Resources for this assignment are going to be week 3, week 4, and week 5 lecture material from Sonoran Desert Institute in the hammer fire pistol course. Didn't have any need for outside resources. It was actually very beneficial to have all that information throughout this course.